It's a short talk where peace begins. We talk life, love, and what's within. Movies, healing, self-care flow. Real talk, safe space, let it grow. It's a short talk where hearts unwind. Sip your peace, speak your mind. It's a short talk, feel the vibe. It's your moment, come alive.
The question over. Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self-care movies. If this is your first time joining us, welcome. We're glad to have you. If you're watching on YouTube, please click like, hit subscribe, and leave a comment below. If you're listening on one of the other podcast platforms, follow, subscribe, and leave a comment or a review. This is episode 91, and I'm Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Castle.
And Cathy and I are very happy to be joined by Miss Emily Ray this week. And Emily's going to talk about parenting and self-care and that whole thing, and kind of talk about how really kind of hit on that, but I'll just talk about parenting in general. So Emily, we're glad to have you on Eastern Shore Talk.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
So to a little full disclosure, so Emily and I know each other a little bit from, let's just say, through previous relationships. We met back in the day, and I kind of was, Emily's name kind of popped back into my world a little while back through the Village here in Easton, through Sam Loza, and I then started following her and started seeing some of the stuff she's doing with parenting and parenting classes and coaching. Yeah, so Emily, tell everybody kind of who you are and what you do, and kind of why you're happy to be on the podcast today.
Okay, yeah. So what I'm doing right now, I have in-person and virtual classes, programs, workshops, all the things to help parents in whatever stage of life they're in. So whether that is parenting on the same page with their partner, whether that is navigating co-parenting, whether that's just figuring out why you are the way you are as a parent, what your triggers are, what this means for your child, and just how to parent truly how you want to, and not just what is a natural default pattern. So again, I just kind of help parents through all walks of life, and different capabilities and different stages. So I don't have one specific niche, other than that I'm going to support you in whatever way that I can, however I can, with the ability and the knowledge that I have.
Nice.
So I was telling Emily earlier, Kathy, we've had all your sons on, so the parenting aspect has always been part of this podcast, both directly and indirectly. So I thought, guys as moms, and you're kind of in different phases as moms, would be kind of cool to talk about as well.
Oh, 100%. I was just saying that I'm in the thick of motherhood right now, of, that 24/7, it never turns off. You're always needed, no time for yourself. And that's where this whole conversation, why I'm happy to be on here, is what I've learned in this 24/7 motherhood, being in the thick of things. I have to make time for myself, no matter how big or how small, or it's not only going to affect me, but it's going to affect my daughter. And so that's one of those things that takes time and learning and patience and like grace with yourself, to be like, okay, self-care doesn't look the same as before, like going to get my nails done and having a spa day, or, getting a massage, whatever it may be. How can I care for myself and take a breather to regulate my nervous system so that I can then pour back into my family?
Go ahead, Kathy. I know you got something. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, I'm on the other end of it. With my kids are 19 to 27, so I'm in the that young adult phase, and the cementing of that prefrontal cortex, like we talked about earlier. So I feel like, if parenting is so funny, I mean, you're only an expert of whatever. I feel like I'm only an expert of whatever age I'm at, and then you kind of have a vision of what the next phase is, but you have no idea until you're thrown right in that fire what it is. So I think being a mom it is a hard job. And I remember a long time ago, before I had kids, somebody saying to me, I was complaining at the time about graduate school. I think I've said this on this podcast before. I was complaining about graduate school and working full time, and it was just hard to do all those things. And they laughed at me, and she said, just wait till you have kids. You have no idea. And I'm like, who does she think she is? Of course I have an idea. I'll be fine at that. And man, that woman's words have haunted me my whole parenting career, right? Because it is a job. And I think I'm from the time frame when I started having kids. People weren't really talking about self-care,
Mm-mm.
but you know, this is really dating me. But some of us were talking at work today, like, when did the World Wide Web come out? Right. And I had to look it up because I remember being in graduate school and they're like, oh, this thing called the World Wide Web, which people don't even use that reference anymore, is going to take over the world. I guess like we're talking about AI now. And I was like, what a joke. It's not going to take over the world, but that tells you why I'm not in computers. And it did take over the world, right? So back in 1993, April of 1993 is when I looked up when really the internet became public. And I'm sure it took a minute for it to get really widely used. So we didn't have the resources that are at our fingertips today. So we didn't talk about self care. I put the Barney video in the VCR and whatever came after that, like with the previews of something else. That's where I got the new whatever. So
It's so bittersweet though, and it's
yeah,
so like it's a double-edged sword because yes, everything is at your fingertips, but it's too in your face, right? Like I was literally just telling a friend that this morning, like I feel so bad for all the moms and parents and everything that like see a TikTok or an Instagram reel or something and think that that's the only way to do it. That's the only way to be a good mom. That's the only way, and put all this pressure on themselves. And I even do that, even though it's my, I have to for my job consume a lot of this. And sometimes then I'm like questioning myself and second guessing and like, am I doing the right thing? But that's where I have to coach myself through things of like, this is what's best for my child and myself based on, everything that's going on. And like having the confidence to say, I can only do so much. I'm only human, For
you know what
example,
we
like,
had? This is so funny. I'd really not thought about this until you were saying it right now. Is I had What to Expect the Toddler Years. Remember the book?
yep,
I don't even know.
I read that a
Yeah.
few years ago.
What to expect when you're expecting, following it. What to expect the talent, following it. And then you had grandmothers. So you had grandmothers do this, do that.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh my gosh, all the grandmothers
Yeah.
are so judgy.
But it's just like it's too much now, and it stresses people out, and that's where I think the main connection between like self-care and mental health and motherhood comes in my opinion. What from the families that I work with, it is the societal expectations of like you're not doing enough or you're doing too much, or like, one wrong thing is going to just like ruin your kid forever. And I try to work with parents to be like,
Breathe.
everything is not so severe. You know what I mean? Like you're doing the best you can. They're doing the best they can. Just leave it at that, just tick your boxes off and call it a day.
Right,
So,
right.
Emily, I like to ask our guests that are providers kind of what their motivation was to kind of head in the direction and how they're providing. So, we talked earlier about a post that you posted yesterday that I
Mm-hmm.
loved because you were so vulnerable and talking about your healing journey. Talk about that a little bit if you're willing to, and kind of how that has kind of led you to what you're doing now.
So, a little prequel to that, I was an elementary school teacher. I'm here in Talbot County for 8 years or so. And I also worked at the Judy Center here in Talbot County. So, I always knew that I was genuinely interested and curious about child development and, just development and education and all of that. So, in 2020, this is where the vulnerability comes in, but I think it's important. COVID just hit, or it was about to hit, something in spring 2020. COVID just hit. I and my significant other at the time, I called things off. I said, this isn't working. This is not healthy for any of us. Broke that off. And I also had a family member at that time just at rock bottom. And I took that family member to rehab. And so again, COVID, my boyfriend at the time, my family member, and I laugh about it because I've learned in therapy, it is dark humor, gets me by. And at the time, it was the 5-year anniversary of my father's death that I never grieved up until that point. So it quite literally was St. Patrick's Day week of 2020. All these things happened in 1 week. Like I realized that my dad was gone and he
Wait,
wasn't
that
coming
might
back.
have been. Was that literally the 14 days to stop the spread? I remember that being St.
So also I was a teacher. So we basically didn't have a job. We were at home saying, what do
That,
we do?
yeah.
I'm telling you,
Wow.
it was a
Yeah.
rough time. So, like I said, between my dad, my family member, my significant other at the time, and just the world ending completely,
Yeah.
I somewhat jokingly like reached out to a local therapist, and I was like, again, that dark humor. I was like, hey, she's like, tell me a little bit about what's going on. And I was like, boom, boom, boom. Can you help me? And she's like, I'm going to make an exception because that's a lot going on. But the point is that I just kind of was like, why not? Like things didn't have to be horrible. I still was like above water and, had a job and wasn't, going crazy. But I knew that like something had to give. Like this isn't, I should have support coping. I should be able to like talk to somebody because the two main people in my life I just booted and or cut off. And so I started going to therapy and I healed wounds that I didn't even know existed. I always joked about like my childhood, growing up in alcoholism. I was known as like the party girl in high school, and it just was a thing. Like and if local people know, they're like, "Oh yeah, Emily, the Ray family had all the parties and had all the things, and had no supervision and blah blah blah." And I just thought it was like normal. And then you grow up and you realize like those things weren't normal. But then you also learn that your parents were people too, and they were doing the best they could with the resources that they had, or they didn't know, or it's how they were raised.
Yeah.
So all of this stuff came up in therapy, right? Of like talking about my childhood and how those things impacted my adulthood and my previous relationship. And I slowly started to kind of open up and be like, this is so interesting to me. This is why I am the way that I am, right? Like not a bad thing about myself that I get stressed out when somebody raises their voice. That's a trigger to me because of my childhood, right? It is not, all of these connections I started to make, and it made me feel seen to myself for the first time. Like I actually felt like I had an identity and I made sense. And that's so weird to say because before, I guess I was just kind of like the identity of what everybody else thought I was. And I had to figure out like, who am I and what am I without all of this? Again, I cut everybody off that was bringing unhealthy, everything to me. And I was like, well, who am I now without the people that I love? So it really, truly, 2020 was a just pivotal moment in my life. I continued to work, not as a parent coach yet, but when I was working for the Judy Center, I was like, let me just like, see how I can. I'm a huge fan of like, continuing education. I continue to want to learn and do better and know more. And I was on a like national conference for child development. I saw a parent coach on there.
Mm.
Like, what's that? I've never heard of that. Once I started learning, I couldn't stop. So basically, I just wanted it as another, something next to my name. And now this is my whole life.
Can I pause you for a minute?
Please.
So I can't wait to hear the next part because that's very interesting to me. Maybe this is my retirement gig. I'll come work for you.
Please.
So I love the story that you just said about yourself. I know it was quick. Jay is saying, he appreciates your vulnerability. Is this on your Facebook page for your business that you saw this post?
Oh, yes.
And say what that is in case anybody wants to look at your business on
It's
Facebook.
Ray of Sunshine Parenting.
Ray of Sunshine Parenting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate, this is what I love about this podcast. And this is what, people will give Jay and I feedback all the time. And I'm so happy to hear feedback. And Jay, I had somebody that was a past guest, Janice, Janice Ware. She was like, I just love listening to you guys. But I love hearing people give us feedback, or people that they look at you and you're like, do they know me? Do I know them? And they know it's from a podcast. I'm like, it's just weird because then I feel bad because I can't see all the people that are looking at us, but they know us. But anyway, the fun thing is that we can bring all different kinds of people on here to tell their stories. And I love it because I feel like every single person that gets on here and tells their story, there's like ripples of people that can identify with exactly that story because we're all different. Jay's story is different, of course. But what I like about your story is I bet you there are so many people like you that look, here's my identity in high school. You just said we were the party house, or we were the fun group or whatever, and that how at some point in time, your brakes were like, like maybe that's not how I want my children to be or
Yeah.
how I think. But somebody didn't have the guardrails on to put, on the bumpers on the bowling lane, right? I don't know, you know what I'm trying to say, Jay. And sometimes that does feel a little, that's a weird feeling, right? To come to that realization, but wow, isn't that great that you were able to separate and come to that realization, and that you didn't completely lose your identity. Maybe you felt like you were losing it or losing your mind, but you made such a pivotal shift. Just, I'm in all of that, and I think you saying exactly what you've said in itself, if that just helps people listen to that part of this podcast, I think that's amazing, because I think there's so many people that are afraid of losing the fun, whatever person they were at this point in their life. So I love that you just.
Well, not just that, Kathy, but and tell me, tell me if I'm wrong, Emily. Part of what you identify with was not just the party girl history of Emily, but all the stuff that you said you hadn't dealt with.
Yeah,
Just
you
the
didn't even
family.
know.
Yeah.
Sign on my forehead for years of dead dad. Like that's all I felt like I resonated with people. And I could not stand that. And it was one of those things that I was like, I'm not dealing with that. Like it was traumatic. It was, I mean, I worked, like I said, as a school teacher, I worked at Foxy's basically full time at that point too. And it was just so icky that I felt like I coped better just acting like it didn't happen or just making light of it. Or you know what I mean?
That's a coping mechanism. Let's joke
100%.
about it. Let's put it on the rug. But you know what you've done too in this few minutes that you've talked? You just made therapy so normal, it's not even funny. Like, you just normalized getting help. It is so hard to do that because people
I
are like, oh my
want that
God, if
for
I go get
everyone.
help,
Yeah.
I have this label. I'm like labeled crazy for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
You just made going to therapy normal, and I love that you just did that, because you made it sound like, you know what, I needed some extra support. I needed somebody else to kind of reframe some of these triggers in my life, help me identify them. And there are so many people in your situation out there.
And yeah, even if it's not that, like, I know that I need to, like, figure out my childhood and, talk about why I feel the way that I feel, even if it's not that extreme, even if it's just like, I don't know how to handle this situation, or like, am I the crazy one here? Like, there's that trend online. Like, am I the asshole? Use your therapist for that. Don't use, the random people on social media. Like that's what therapy is for. And I want it to be so normalized. I tell everybody in my life, you need to go to therapy. It should be so
I
normalized.
just wish that therapy was called coaching. Like you're calling yourself a parent coach or whatever. That
Mhm.
coach word is so normal, and everybody likes to be coached, because if you're coached, I'm getting ready to be a great athlete. I'm getting ready to be a great leader. I'm getting ready to be a great person by going
Listen,
to therapy, right? So I love the word coach because it's acceptable, and you're building on your strengths with the coach, right? Somebody believes in you.
I do think
so
it's a little tricky because, sorry, Jay, I was just going to finish
yeah,
this thought. I think it's a little tricky though, because people think that I do therapy. I don't do therapy. I work cohesively with therapists, but I don't do therapy.
But yeah, but
I
I can
help.
see that when I do when I am a participant in leadership coaching, when I am coached by a leadership coach, I joke with her and I was like, this is such work therapy for me. I'll say that because I know it's not therapy. She's not diagnosing me. She's not whatevering me, but it is some of the similar kind of outcomes, right? Where somebody's
100%.
listening to you, helping you reframe something. So I can see where it gets confused.
Giving you another input or another, thought. Like offer suggestions on how to reframe things.
Yes, which is what, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, but our brains need that. Our brains are on a negative loop. Anyway, I'm going to stop talking. Go ahead. Judy Center.
so anyway, Emily, someone, and this is becoming kind of a. We've had a few young women in their mid 20s who have come on here and been vulnerable.
I was in my mid-20s.
I am, first of all,
You'll take it, right?
in all of anyone at that age to have figured out enough to figure out that they're not doing well to decide to do whatever about it.
Hmm.
But again, I didn't do it till I was in my 40s. Number one, and from someone who knows you a tiny bit, I can't help but feel proud of you taking that step to take care of yourself, and
Thank you.
now you're serving. So you have,
Mhm.
Kath is a big thing for me, especially Kathy as well. But that's kind of like a suit of armor for me. It's like our story is our superpower. That you are directly using your stuff to now serve. So there
Yeah.
is that, and maybe you've already experienced this, or if you haven't,
Passion.
the serving part of it is such a big part of the healing journey. It's kind of like that final piece, and it's like so big because as you're giving of yourself, as you're being vulnerable in posts, as you're talking to your clients, you're also absorbing things, and you're even though you're the coach, you're also figuring out Emily because you're now in a very kind of specific leadership role. You're like leading these parents through their journey as being parents. I am going to forever be an advocate of anybody who a figures it out and doesn't stay where they were. To
Mhm.
say
Yeah.
I'm in a bad way, I don't know how or why, I need to figure it out. What am I going to do? And you took steps. You know, in
Well,
a
and I
nutshell, that's what we
appreciate
all should
that.
do.
But it makes me feel, and I'm being vulnerable, it makes me feel icky because I'm like, why should I be like put on this pedestal? But then, when you talk about it objectively, when you say like, okay, this person grew up in a home of alcoholics who, never went to therapy. I was the first person that graduated college in my family, like all of these things that you don't realize until you look back, or if you hear it about somebody else, you're like, oh, that must have been hard. But when it's you, it's like, oh, that's just me. Not a big deal at all. But it's so hard for me to kind of look back and say, I did do that. That is really cool. And I think a lot of the times people don't congratulate themselves
They're gonna
enough.
celebrate the wins.
That's
Yeah.
that little piece of the trauma still sitting on our shoulder, Emily. I'm the same exact like I won an award last year and I was like, no, yeah, it's like
Hmm.
it scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
It's hard for me too, though, to accept things like that because just like it's everybody. Like it's my company. It's not
Hmm.
me. You know. It's like
Right.
you want everybody to. I don't mind celebrating things, but I feel the same way. It's hard to be the center of that attention.
But I think a lot what you said too, Jay, made me think about like that there's a story of, an old tale or whatever of two little boys growing up in an alcoholic family, and they're twins, and they grow up, and one twin boy becomes an alcoholic because he's like, this is me, this is just what I do, this is just my life. And the other one is like, absolutely not, I'm doing the exact opposite. And that's kind of like what I think about a lot of like, you have choices. Like you could just sit in the like, this is who I am. This is my identity. I am the child of, addiction or child of whatever it may be. And that's just me and I'm not doing anything about it. Or you can actively be like, I literally don't have to stay here. I don't have to do this. I'm choosing consciously every day to be, you know, yeah, be not that. I'm making a choice. And I think that's also very empowering for people, for parents to know that like you are making the choice. And a big thing that I try to tell parents is like conscious parenting. I don't like labeling myself. I don't want to be like I'm a this parent or I'm a that parent. But I resonate a lot with conscious parenting because you just know why you're doing what you're doing. That's it. You are just, that if you're disciplining your child, it's because of safety or it's because of this. You know that if you are, setting a boundary, it's for a good reason. Things of that sort. But like again, the conscious part of it is I think the biggest shift in all of everything. You're not just floating through. You're like making active decisions.
So a big theme that kind of has become one of the foundations of our podcast, Emily, is that under the big self care umbrella is how we all wear different hats in our life, whether it's as a parent, as a romantic partner, as a business owner, whatever. We juggle all these roles and hats. We've talked about this a million times in 91 episodes that to be the best at any or all of those roles, it has to start. You have to be the best version of you to begin with. And I like how you talked about that earlier. How it's like, you got to take how we take care of ourselves as a parent might look different than it did prior to being a parent.
Mhm.
But so let's
Yeah,
let's
you
kind of
have
talk
to
about
feel.
that, because I think the two biggest misunderstood things about the two biggest lies about self care are A, that it's selfish, and B, that I don't have time for it. Those are the two big ones. There's other ones, but
Please
So
weave in your neuroscience.
I was going to
I
say,
knew
okay,
it.
this is where Kathy's going to pop in. So when I think about this, and if I just think the basics of motherhood and self care is co regulation, it's nervous system science. It is how do I, and if somebody's worked with me, they know I'm very casual and blunt because I want you to understand it. I don't want to sit here and talk jargon. How do you expect a kid to be calm if you're not calm? Like at the end of the day, that's that, right? You know, your partner is having a bad day. You can just feel the vibe, or you can, they feel off, they look tense, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing with your kids seeing you. If you are stressed out, they see it and they're, okay, what's going to happen? So in order to
No
change your
pressure.
whole household, right? No pressure. You have to be perfect at all times. No, absolutely not. But like the point is that you have to invest in yourself and learn about, I'm starting to get stressed out. What do I need to do to, calm my nervous system? And I hate, and I know that sounds so silly because this is literally what I do for a living, but I dislike the again the jargon, right? Because it scares some people away of like, oh, calm your nervous system. They're like, what, you want to go like hug a tree? No, literally I'm talking about you just, even if it's putting a song on and making it funny, that calms your nervous system. But again, all of these things that it's just like, if you are mad that your, say, toddler's not listening because they're yelling at you and you're yelling at them, well, sorry to break it to you, but you have to be the adult and you have to make yourself calm, and then you have to teach them how to be calm, because it's like a bike. They don't know how. So how do you teach them how to ride a bike if you don't know how to ride a bike? So it's a lot of like inner work. And that's where I work a lot alongside therapy, is learning how to notice your triggers, how you handle them, what works, what doesn't work, what pisses you off, what can get you out of a bad mood, what your tells are, right? Do you squeeze your hands when you start to get overstimulated or mad? And same thing when then we start noticing it for our kids. You can start noticing when your kid is feeling a little anxious or a little annoyed, or almost at their breaking point. I call it, going up our ladder. We have different colors in our ladder, and like you're at a yellow, you maybe like are tapping your feet. So noticing it in yourself, your child, even your partner, all of these things, and knowing, hey, do you need to go like take a minute, or I'm going to go take a minute, whatever it may be, is being able to then pour back into your whole family. Again, I have to fill my cup up to give to my child. Some days I can't, and that's life. Some days it's just this is what it is. But I'm trying my best every day, and that's all that matters.
Cathy, when Emily and I talked last week, she brought up the exact same thing about the oxygen mask on the airplane that
Mm.
I talk about all the time.
Yeah.
And when she did that, Emily, you couldn't see me, but I was like, that's my thing. I say
I'm
that.
so surprised I actually didn't just say that. I guess because I had said fill your cup up earlier, but I tell parents all the time, like, again, the whole riding the bike, metaphor. You have to put your oxygen mask on an airplane before that's what they tell you to do. That's the rules. Everybody knows the rules on the airplane. You have to put it on yourself first before you put it on your child. So again, it it makes me sad, but like that's what I help people with, is like, you can't just expect all of this stuff from this young child that you're not even doing yourself. So like, let's figure it out for you so that you can also then teach them. And that's a huge thing within like the school system right now too, is they're going to school, but they don't have these like coping skills. They don't have this emotional regulation. They don't know how to self-regulate because they were never taught. And that's not what the teachers are there to do. So then it's just this constant cycle of that. And then kids grow up to be adults and they still don't know how to self-regulate. So a lot of these things I talk to parents about is like, okay, well, right now you have to teach your little boy that when he gets mad, what he can do instead of just say, no, you can't do that. Well, what can he do? Maybe he needs to go run. Maybe he needs to jump on a trampoline. Maybe he needs to punch a pillow. Guess what? You're helping him so that when he's 20 years old, he's not getting mad and punching a wall, right? These are the things that we are trying to, again, not to scare you or anything, but you're setting all these stones in place for the future of your child. You might not see it immediately. Your kid might still, punch you, the third, fourth, fifth time, but by the fifth time or 20th time, whatever, hopefully they're learning a little bit of skills because you have taught that to them because you also know them.
Wow. What a complexity. It's complex, isn't it, right now? Because, well, just like we say all the time, technology has
Mm.
it's good and it's bad, right? So not
I was
only
going
are
to
you
ask,
trying
yeah,
to you as the not only are you trying to protect your kids from their really short attention spans and being babysat by technology all the time, and sometimes we need a break and we have to bring the technology in, but you as the parents, that's what's different about this next generation, is that you're constantly comparing yourselves as well, and you're being the actor in front of the kids because I can't show them that I'm ready to punch a wall myself. And, what stressors for parents right now? It's a
Yeah.
lot, right?
Well, and that's also what I teach parents is you said, like, putting this front on, don't. Like, I tell people, don't. They need to see that too. Like, obviously, if it's not extreme, but like, they need to see you like getting frustrated. They need to see you using those coping skills that you have learned. They need to see you, if you're having a hard day, like, hey, mommy needs a break. Mommy's gonna go. Even on the show Bluey, the little kid showed Bluey. They're like, mommy needs 5 minutes. Great. If that's what mommy needs to do to come back to you and not, chew your head off, then do it. But I tell parents, like, you need to do these things and show them how to do it. And not to toot my own horn or anything, but my daughter is 2 years old. And literally the other day out of nowhere, she was getting mad and she goes and took a deep breath. I almost cried because I literally was like, oh my God, she's learning. This is what I do when I'm mad. And at the end of the day, like brain wiring, all of that, it's as simple as that. What do I do when I'm mad? Do I yell when I'm mad? Do I take a deep breath when I'm mad? Do I, hide in my room when I'm mad? They're learning and building all of these connections. I mean, their brain waves are just going insane at a young age. And it's so vital to teach them what to do instead of just show them what not to do, but tell them what to do. Because that doesn't help either.
I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there any kind of resources that you would direct parents to online, or can they pick them up off of your website or
100% my website. But I am a huge fan of Dan Siegel. He's probably my favorite in terms of like the neuroscience aspect as well. Dan Siegel, Greer Kirschenbaum, she's amazing, especially for littles like infants. But those are my two main people that talk more facts, but also similar to me are like, and here are examples. Like, you don't have to, one of Dan Siegel's big things is like, you don't have to be perfect. You just have to try. And that's, same thing. You just have to try. Just do your best. Know every day, like, well, we'll try again tomorrow. And like you mentioned earlier, Cathy, I think that's the hardest part with social media is you scroll, your algorithm knows you, they know your pain points. Like, you're scrolling and
yeah.
everything you do, oh, that's not how I should have done it, or oh, I need to try this. And I will be honest, that's the hardest part of my business right now is trying to be authentic and be myself and not go online and say, this is exactly how you stop tantrums, because I can't tell you how to do that. I can help you through it, but I don't want to be inauthentic to get a sale. And it's hard competing with other people for
Right.
moms who have that pain point of I need help. But social media is not good for that. It's hard.
it's funny not being a parent myself, so I tend to look at it from an analytical standpoint,
Mm-hmm.
Kathy, as you can imagine. And I'm thinking, like, parenting over the years has evolved in that, like, morals are not or shouldn't be any different, but there are different impacting factors now versus when, say, Kathy and I were kids with no internet, the phone was attached to the wall, and that was all there was. One TV channel or three TV channels. So
Mm-hmm.
there were not factors that parents had to account for back then that they have to account for now. Social media being the biggest one. So you know, and we have talked like that. I'm sure we'll jump back into a social media specific episode at some
Mm-hmm.
point because it's like, I mean, you're talking about kids that are as of age where they're now online, whether
Mm-hmm.
early teens, whatever that is. Um, how you kind of, not just from an age specific standpoint, from a, you got a 2-year old versus a 15-year old, you know,
Mm-hmm.
how do you kind of talk to parents through? Like Cathy says, I'm only an expert at whatever age I'm at the time. Like, how does that work? You might be, maybe as you have been doing this for all, you'll probably run into parents, maybe the same parents from 10 years ago, that are like, okay, now the same child is now 15. Now what?
Yep.
Because it's
Oh yeah.
coming hard and fast at you. Right? Like stuff's
Every stage
changing.
changes.
I mean, first it was, don't use. I could think of how social media has evolved. In the beginning it was like MySpace. What is this? What are they hiding? Now we're at Snapchat. I'm still not a fan of
It's
Snapchat.
way more interactive now than it, yeah.
I will never be a fan of Snapchat. But it's like, what age, and they want to be like everybody else, and you're trying to protect them, and it's hard to advise. And I know each kid is different. How many kids you have in what I did with number one is different than number four, probably because I got exhausted and tired and old. But, it's just all the things. There's no magic.
Nope.
It's where your family
yes.
is at that moment.
That's exactly it. Literally, that's what I'm going to say. It's so complex because there's so many factors that are involved, right? One, the first thing I thought about was, being proactive. So in all of my courses, mainly my 6-week and 12-week like parenting courses, the very beginning, I throw people for a loop because I'm like, we need to figure out your values. What do you care about? And they're like, well, I'm here for you to tell me how to, make my kid not backtalk me. We're going to talk about your values because your values determine everything else, right? They determine your boundaries. They determine your rules. Again, those screen time rules, those whatever else, because when you know what you want to do and you're not permissive and you're not, just letting whatever happens, when oh, well, we have this much screen time and you have a reason to back it up because, it's not healthy for your brain. So this is what we do. One, your kids understand that boundary and they get used to it instead of one day we have 6 hours of screen time and the next day, oh no, like blah, blah, blah. We have, no TV today. That's confusing. So it's being proactive and knowing like, this is what our family does. These are our family values and this is why we do what we do. But it's another thing too of like being able for your kid to trust you and love you and having that secure connection, right? So if I tell, a 10-year-old, like, no, we're not doing this. And they know if they argue back enough, like they're going to get it. Or, if they know that like, I don't know, if they just want to argue with me, then it's going to be different from a 10-year-old that trusts you and they value your reasoning and you constantly show up for them and prove to them that like you're doing the right thing. Not saying that they'll be happy about it and be like, okay, mommy, you're right. But it comes back to that connection and that trust and that safety of like, okay.
Well,
All right, mom, that makes sense.
I think I agree with you 100%. And, Jay and I talk about value alignment a lot. And I think it's kind of as trendy as self-care is. I think, and I'm glad people are starting to talk more about what their values are because it is so important. And it's so important to continue to reevaluate that. But I'll tell you, as a mom, as an older mom, I mean, it's hard because I know what my values are, but then you're fighting too. There gets to be these. All right, hold on. There's something like, is it? Oh my gosh. Okay, there was a person. I'm like, do I have a rat in my office? I'm sorry. I heard things and it would really scare me. I'm watching too much scary stuff at night. Okay, so where was I? Oh my God. Okay, so I know my values, but it's really hard when these kids, now they're getting more clever and up in the ante. And they're like, when I'm a parent, I'm never going to act like you. They're throwing the, wow, like, and that hurts, right? Because you're trying to do the right thing. Or you're not like, everybody else's mom allows them to blah blah blah, and you're like, great, I'm the only one on the block, it's just me, I'm the jerk mom. But so it's hard, it's really hard. But I think you're right, and I find myself, and God knows I've been 27 years at it now, saying more, you know what, these are my values, I'm not going to apologize for them, this is what I think I need to do to keep our family safe and healthy. And you may not agree with me, but it's taken me so much trial and error and practice. And I can be really confident and say that one day and another day be like, dang it. It can be like,
yeah. So that's also why I teach like non-negotiables. Like these are like absolutely not. In our family, we do not hit like the end, but like maybe a flexible one, like, cause you value, say, maybe you really value like connection at dinner time and like you all want to sit and eat together at the table. But you could be flexible. Maybe like it's just everybody needs to get out of the house before they like go at each other's necks. So you eat dinner outside together in the grass. things like that too, of like, you still keep your main value, but like it can be flexible. Another thing like that is like bedtime. Like, yes, that is the rule in our house. When you get older, we'll rediscuss that, but right now this is that. But there's so many things, like you said, they change. I mean, every time I get a new client, I go through it with them of, the values. They've changed every single time because I'm in a different season. Like,
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm valuing something more and prioritizing that more. They're all very similar, but they change, and that's okay. But in our family, we also, again, we've had conversations of what do we want? And that's why I created a new course I just started offering, is Parenting on the Same Page, because I had so many people coming to me and being like, well, this is what I care about, but he doesn't care about that, or but she blah blah blah. And so that's the basis of it, is
More
what do you
conflict.
value? What do you value? And how can we make it work
Yeah.
without the tension in the household?
See, we've been
I
lucky.
love that, Kathy. It sounds so much like how Marnie does her leadership classes.
I'm telling you, all this is connected.
Yeah, it so is the self care. It's because we have a friend of the podcast, Marnie Stockman, who's written books and is just amazing. And she teaches leadership classes. And what her whole theme is, you have to know who you are. Lead as you. Don't lead like you think this other person, this other CEO of you have to figure out who you are first and lead from there. What you're saying is, you have to, whether it's as a single parent, as a family, you have to parent where you are. Your
Mhm.
direction might be different than the neighbor's direction, but it's appropriate for your values, and that kind of falls under that self care thing. Because I like to say all the time, the more consistently we're doing self care, and the more intentional we're doing self care, we're building a strong sense of self. And now, when you have that, now that's where your strong
Mhm.
value comes from, is figuring out who you are,
And
and
what you actually,
holding fast. Yes.
or and not just what the internet tells you to care about. Literally the other night, so I'd been moving around all day, and Matt's like, hey, can you give me socks? Like, my feet are cold. He's playing with Cameron. And my first thought in my head,
Get your
because
own
again,
stuff.
yeah, because I'm consumed by social media too. Like, oh my God, I've been, I'm sitting here trying to do the laundry and I'm busy and I'm blah,
Yeah.
blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, he's just putting all this stuff on. And then I stopped myself. I had to coach myself through of like, who cares? Just because somebody else, at the end of the day, do I care that I pick up a pair of socks that I'm quite literally folding and walk over to? No, I don't care. But, I probably saw a reel or 20 about like, oh, your partner putting this extra stress on you and the mental load and the this and the that. So again, it's also and I told him, I literally, like, it took me a while. And then I was like,
My first
I
reaction was,
yeah, I was like, I tell you something funny. Like, I had this whole internal battle with myself, but all of that comes back to like, what do I care about, and what am I going to invest my time and energy and all of that stuff in, to like, am I really going to make that a deal, or am I just going to give him the darn
so
socks?
can
You're
I
not going to
share?
die on that hill. It's not worth it. You're getting strong enough, a strong enough sense of who Emily is. And like, that kind of stuff is not. You had to take a minute and think about it, but
Yeah,
at least you're there. That, you know what I mean?
Can
but
I?
that's also, yeah. Oh, go ahead. I was going to say, I could just keep going. I was going to, that is literally what I teach parents though, is the first step is just awareness. It's literally just like, and you
Self-assessment.
have that choice, and then you can decide what to do from there.
I was gonna just add something that I've been doing for a while now, probably 5 years or so. And my leadership coach, said to me to pick a word of the year. That's your word of the year. I don't even, have I talked about this before, Jay? I don't even know.
We did it last year at the end of the year wrap up. We picked the word of the year for each of us.
Yes, we did. We did. We did.
We'll
So
do that again.
I've already picked my word for next
I'll
year.
have to think about mine. Yeah.
You have to think about yours, but the word that I want to eventually hear your word, Jay, but the word that I picked for the next year is protect. And then I write under it, and I have this, I use these planners, and I go through 4 a year. They're really heavy planners, but I write it in the beginning of it. So my word of next year is going to be protect. And here's what I've said, why I picked that word. I want to protect my time, my energy, my mind. I want to have good boundaries, use good self care. I want to have positive self regulation techniques so I can be a better leader while protecting me, or be a leader in all my roles. But I want to safeguard myself, and I want to move forward at the same time. So that's my sort of goal for next year.
Just one, just a small little.
But in that, under that,
Pretty big one though. Yeah.
Yeah.
things will fall under that.
Hmm. But it brings you back to that of, whether it's the regulation or whether it's, just boundaries. And I always encourage parents, like, start small, even if it's just one boundary of, like, or one routine change or whatever it is. Again, I'm thinking about, like, parenting on the same page. Like, a lot of the times that resentment and things like that and starts to deteriorate yourself, right? You start to be like, oh my God, I can't stand my partner, or this, that, and the other, because you're in the thick of things and parenthood and all that. But being able to be, like, safe enough to talk about, like, hey, this really matters to me. How can we work together to, like, solve this or work on this? Because I know so many people that just kind of, like, sweep it under the rug, or that go full force and let it build up for so long, and then they flip, and then it's a huge argument. So being able to, like, have the self-regulation tools, and we haven't even talked about the communication skills. I mean, that's something that I really work a lot with my clients, is like, okay, so you need to have, a minute of self-care. How are you going to relay that to your partner, instead of, like, I'm leaving and you got the kids, like, bye. Let's figure it out.
Done that, been there.
You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I'm like, I'm going to Walmart. I need a minute. Like, something.
Yep.
I don't care where I go.
Walmart, Target, get in your minivan, go to Walmart or Target. That's the yeah. You're in there and you put your cool songs and think you're cool for a minute, and you're mad and you're crying or whatever. It's a whole woman thing.
But even just, like, one, planning that out, like, making time in your schedule, even if it is something like, again, knowing your partner and knowing that, they could, like, see if you're starting to get frustrated more than it. Sometimes it's more visible, or you're trying to hide it and it's not working. Like, Matt sometimes will be like, are you good? Do you want me to take her upstairs? Or he'll just take her upstairs because he could tell. But, like, other things, like me being able to be like, I'm feeling a little, like, overwhelmed, or, like, just spread thin. I need to do something for myself. I'm going to put something in the calendar. Or, again, even if it's just like, I'm going to the store by myself tonight, or I'm going to go read my book. See ya. Jay and I mentioned, we talked last week about, like, sometimes I mean, most of the time, it doesn't have to be extreme. Like, self-care right now, again, in the thick of motherhood, is on my way to work, listening to my 2000s nostalgic hits. Okay. Like, that is my self-care right now. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not upset that I don't have a girls' weekend, or, whatever it may be, or a trip to freaking, Bermuda. But, like, I'm happy, like, don't get me wrong, that'd be fabulous. But I'm happy with the little glimmers that all day long, whether it's my coffee tasting good, or whether it's, like, my outfit fitting, or whatever it may be, all of the small things add up to the big self-care that fill your cup, right? That then you can pour back. So if we're able to shift our mindset into being like, this is a positive, this is, I'm happy about this. This makes me feel good. You train your brain, like, Cathy talked about earlier, you train your brain to start seeing those instead of seeing that negative loop. And it works. As weird, it works, and it goes right back into your family.
So, Emily, we could talk for 5 hours. So,
Okay.
what we're going to do is we're going to have you back. As we do with most guests, we get so into a great conversation that we're like, there'll be a part two, or some people have come on 3 or 4 times. So, but before we switch gears and switch topics, let everybody know how they can get a hold of you, and where they can find you and all that good stuff.
Yeah. So my main platforms, Instagram and Facebook right now, at Ray of Sunshine Parenting. My office is in Easton, right on West Street, if you're local. So I have in-person sessions, but most of what I do is actually virtual. So it doesn't matter wherever you are in the country. I have virtual options to do one-on-one coaching. I have free resources. I have self-paced programs, all the things that you could imagine. So that is at www.rayofsunshineparenting.com.
Also, Cathy's writing that down right now, I'm sure.
I know. I just liked it on Facebook.
Thanks.
So let's switch gears real quick and do a little music or movie trivia. I don't know, Emily, if you've got a question, because you were like, I don't know about this.
I told Jay, I said, I'm going to be honest. It's giving me a little anxiety, because I've said it a million times tonight. Thick of motherhood. What I've watched this week is Paw Patrol, the animated, Grinch, a little bit of Peppa Pig. I can quiz you about Peppa Pig. I don't know about Stranger Things right now.
I'm going to go with the Grinch.
That's all right.
We might be out of the Peppa Pig. We may not be.
I can win.
I would get that question wrong for sure.
We kept with the Grinch, maybe, right?
All right, Kath, what's your question? What's your trivia question?
I hope you haven't said this before, Jay, but anyway. I'm going to do music, and I'm going to do Christmas music. Your fave, right?
Yep. Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
what's the most streamed, according to Spotify? I hope you haven't said this before. What is the most streamed holiday song? You haven't said this, right?
I have not said this.
Okay.
I did the most covered Christmas song.
That's right. Which was?
It,
Was it not White Christmas? It was Silent Night. Silent Night.
yes. Yep.
Okay.
White Christmas was number 2.
So what's the most streamed holiday song according to Spotify?
I'm going to say,
I would have had it wrong.
I'm going to guess only because this is a extremely, because of the artist more than the song. And I'm going to say Mariah Carey's All I Want for Christmas Is You.
My
You're
answer.
correct. You're correct.
Now that I would,
So
I only
good.
guessed it because it was her, not because of the song.
Yeah. So let me give you a little trivia then. You know what year it came out?
7. I'm guessing, just a wild guess. Okay.
94. It was our first Christmas album. But here's the funny thing. I don't know that I really realized this. So it made it to number 6 on Billboards, and it had to be adult contemporary because something about a rule at that time, because it wasn't a single, it was part of an album. It had to be in this certain category. It couldn't be like
Yep.
the Hot 100 Billboard. So it only made it to number 6 because of that. But then they eventually changed the rule somewhere around 2018. This rule lapsed. So then it got back up to number 3 because the rule change. However, there is one. Do you want to guess the one above this? Well, excuse me. In the let me say this right. It was only the second to reach the top 5 ever of Christmas. So what would be number 1 that reached the top 5? And this is an oldie. This is a 2-part trivia.
I'm going to say Bing Crosby's White Christmas, only because it's Bing and he was real popular
Yes.
back in the day.
You want to make a guess, Emily? It's very nostalgic.
Jingle bells.
Jay, you want to take a second guess?
Maybe Gene Autry's.
It's not that old.
Rudolph.
Not that old.
Oh gosh,
More our childhood.
Madonna, Santa Baby.
That's past our childhood. Chipmunk song. Christmas Don't Be
Yeah.
Late.
See, I could have gotten that one. That's
Yeah.
my playlist right now on Spotify is Christmas kids hits.
Yeah, so the Chipmunks.
Oh yeah, that and Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer were like huge.
Good one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really afraid of that grandma thing. I was like, man, grandma better get freaking home. She is in trouble. Like, I was really worried about her. I'm like, is this what happens? Anyway, I'm done.
All right, so mine is also music, and the iconic movie Say Anything had an extremely iconic scene where Lloyd Dobler, played by John Cusack, rolls up in his car and he puts the boombox out on the hood of his car and he plays this song to try to win over his girlfriend who was having trouble. What is the name of the song and who sang the song?
Is it the dark-haired guy? Dark-haired guy?
What dark-haired guy are you talking about? The actor or the singer?
No, the actor.
John Cusack. John Cusack.
Oh,
The girl in the window to her
Yes.
bedroom.
Yes.
Um,
It was like instead
oh
of
my
throwing
God.
stones, he put a boombox on his car and played this song for her. It's iconic.
I know this because Matt has joked and done this to me.
I can picture.
What's the
it.
name? Kathy, I know when I say it, you're gonna be like, "Oh yeah."
I'm gonna be mad.
Name of the song and the artist. And it came to me because for some reason this song has been popping up on TikTok. So, and it's it's a great song. Even if you take away, it became popular because of this movie and this scene.
It's not coming to the surface. I can
Emily?
visualize, but it's not coming.
It's all right. I'll tell you the artist, Peter Gabriel.
That doesn't help
Is it
me.
in your eyes?
Yep, that's exactly what it is. So you know what I'm talking about, Kathy. Yeah. So ask Matt. Say, all right, Mr. Sparty, you tried to do Romeo and Juliet on me. What's the singer in the song? Dude?
See, and I'm that type of person. I told you guys I was worried about it because I don't remember musicians, actors, I'm like, oh, the guy from this show? Oh, yeah, I don't know his name. I'm
Yeah,
not in my wheelhouse.
yeah. Like that was like We were probably, I want to say that was probably in the mid '90s, maybe early '90s.
I'm gonna be honest with you. When my kids stopped watching kid shows, I was so sad because I really dug some kid shows for real.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoy a lot of it. The adult humor in so much of it is like
I mean,
very witty. Like I enjoy it. But do I miss my crime shows? 100%.
All right,
But I'm too
Kath.
exhausted to use my brain after she
Yeah.
goes to bed to like watch them. So again, this is why Stranger Things, no idea.
maybe you need to schedule some days off in 2026 and then binge some things.
Literally come to my office and watch TV on my computer.
It's so
So yeah, if you ever decide, Emily, the two that I would recommend are Stranger Things and Ted Lasso. They were my.
me too.
There's a
Me
lot
too.
of other ones, but
This season when I was pregnant, either I was pregnant or like early postpartum where that's all
Matt
we
being a
did.
soccer player, he would like Ted Lasso.
No, we liked it. I think we watched like 2 seasons on Apple TV and we really liked it, but I know there's been way more since.
Finish it or
And
rewatch.
they're actually filming the new season, so I think probably spring the new season's
What
gonna
is
come
that,
out.
Jay? 4, 5? What is it?
5.
I think
Yeah, see, that was the
Best
best
show
part
ever. Well, talk
about
about
this
talk
part.
about life lessons and just feeling
Mhm.
all the
for a
feels.
rewatch.
Oh man, it's
Okay.
our
I have
friend
so many on my list, okay? It's like
our friend Marnie, who I was talking about earlier, that does the leadership classes. She wrote a book called "Lead It Like Lasso," and that's kind of her theme, where she says, "Here's this guy who you would not think of as a leader because he's just being himself, and he's just showing his players him, and as he's doing that, he's leading." So that's kind of her theme in the leadership classes that she does. Sorry, Kath. Stranger Things. I'm gonna let you go first because I got so much to say.
So yeah, our household is really
You did. Let me. You did with Dylan or with all of them. You rewatched all of it, all the first
all
four
my kids
seasons.
but one. Tristan did not do it. But all of us did a whole rewatch. Most of us did a
Emily,
rewatch.
they're a watching family. Like they'll all sit down together and watch whatever.
So most of
They've
us
got
did a
dual TV
rewatch.
screens.
Yeah.
They got
Oh,
two
yeah.
TVs in the one room, and they're like watching two different things.
see, but I don't know about that. That would overwhelm
Listen,
me.
Yeah,
there are sports addicts in my house. So
Mm.
right now there's a supplementary TV that's in there with football on, so people can be looking at scores and watch. I don't know how they do it, but whatever. It's not my thing, but it's their thing. So anyway, but we binged rewatch. It took us a month for some sleepless nights. I'm telling you to catch back up. So we watched 4 seasons again, and it was amazing because I had forgotten so many things. But so all five how many 4 episodes dropped the night before Thanksgiving at 8 p.m. So we literally had a watch party. So all my kids except
yeah.
for
She
one.
texts me, Emily, and she's got like charcuterie boards and all
Oh
these
yeah,
That's
spread on
genius.
the
I
dining room
love it.
table.
And that was smart of them
posters.
to put that on the night before Thanksgiving because they knew people would stay up late and watch it.
We had friends from Georgia that watched. One of my kids' friends came over, all my kids except for one, and we had a watch party. And we sat down from 8 p.m. till like 1 in the morning and just binged it all. And we were all wide awake, and we were like making all, oh my God, and somebody's got to pee, and then you want to fight about that. Okay, go quick. We're going to pause it right between this episode. Go pee now. Get it out. And don't drink anymore, Marty, because we're not
Right?
drinking.
Yeah.
And oh my God. And we got pizza because Jay, I tried pineapple pizza because of Argyle. Remember Argyle? Guy from
Yep.
California. I did not like it. But he says don't deny until you try.
That's a
So
non-negotiable.
anyway, but we all watched it. I was scared to death because I was like, who are they gonna kill? And I'm just gonna be so upset for Thanksgiving. But I don't want to give a lot away, but I just
I'm going to give spoilers, so we're going to just give our spoiler alert right
all
now
right.
because
So
I'm going to
spoiler
talk about
alert,
them all.
spoiler alert. But I was really pleasantly surprised. I really liked it. I still love this show so much. I can't wait. Well, I don't know what's going to happen if this stuff drops on Christmas Eve. The next 3. I mean, I gotta wait for Santa to clear on out. So Christmas morning, maybe. Here you go. Let's open up these gifts. We got to get into Stranger Thing. I mean, Christmas is gonna be dark. It's gonna be dark. And then I'm like, if they freaking kill, we have a list of what is acceptable and what's not in our house. And if the Duffer Brothers who wrote the show do not get it right on Christmas night, we're gonna get in our car and we're finding the Duffer Brothers and we're quitting Netflix anyway. And then New Year's Eve, why do they do it on New Year's Eve? So we're gonna have to wait till New Year's Day, and we cannot watch any social media New Year's Eve. Yeah,
So
we're junkies.
Really plan this out.
It's such
it's funny. Like I'm a theater person. Like I'm at the theater almost every Friday night. Kathy's like they're her, especially her youngest Dylan. He's like the movie fiend of their family. They all sit down and they'll go. They'll. I mean, they do it all.
we get mad at each other. Like you can't cheat on each other. It's like we're in
Yeah,
it.
don't watch it without me. Kind of. Yeah.
Mhm. I get that.
Kathy, I watched episode 1, and remember we've been talking about it ever since they said when it was coming out, and I've said this with all these series that had the big delay because of COVID and the big delay because of the strike, how none of them came back the same as they were before. And Only Murders in the Building is kind of one, unfortunately, and that's another one of my favorites. But anyway, so I watched episode 1, and I'm like, well, this is about what I expected. So I'm like, but I'm like, okay, it wasn't horrible. So I'm going to keep going. And what I did is I split it up because I had a 4-day weekend. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to watch because I want to be like everybody else, and I want to see if Netflix crashes. And it didn't.
Did yes, it did.
It didn't for me. I was good.
It did for us. So at 8 o'clock, and I read it crashed for 5 minutes, and then they were all like, my boys were complaining, our internet sucks. I'm like, come on, man.
It's not the internet. Yeah, it's not.
So for 5 minutes, it was spinning, 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 and then it got itself together. And I heard that Netflix increased the bandwidth 30% for this, and it still had 5 minutes of crashing.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Emily, the last time, season 4, which was 3 years ago when they released that season,
Oh my goodness.
you couldn't get on Netflix for like 12 hours. It was so bad. So many people like crashed it at the same time. But anyway,
So they learned and they upped it. This is how I call it like a cult following. This is just how popular it is.
so I watched the first episode Wednesday night, but I'm like, okay, Thanksgiving Day, I'm going to watch 2, or Thanksgiving evening, I'm going to watch 2, and I'm going to watch the fourth one Friday instead of going to the movie because there wasn't anything I wanted to watch. I'd already seen Wicked, so I'm like, I'll replace my movie with that. So episode 2 is a little bit better. Episode 3 is a little bit better, and I'm like, oh, okay, now they're getting. But it's still, Kathy, it doesn't. Partly because they're now young adults and they're not 10. When the series started, Emily, these were like 10,
That's
11,
what I'm
12.
thinking of in my brain. Like I remember years ago, I think I watched like an episode or 2 and trying to get into it, and then like not because like the kids in the room, in the closet, and the something. And I remember being like, "This is so weird," and everyone was like, "Just keep with it," and I didn't. I gave up.
See, I was the same way. I was not a first adopter. I was a late adopter. And my kids are like, you're so dumb. You're going to love it. Why wouldn't you just watch it? I'm like, I'm not watching it. Why are they all in the woods? Everybody's jumping into like a hole. Like, what is their problem? Why would they do this? Isn't real. And then I'm like, oh, I am all in. That's what I mean, Jay. I'm all in.
So now, Emily,
So
they're like in their early 20s in real life. And Millie, it's not Millie Bobby Brown anymore. It's Millie Bonnie Bon Jovi. She's changed her name. But she married John Bon Jovi's son. But anyway, she's kind of the lead character. She's got a baby. She's in her early 20s. So she was 10 when they started. So and I even said to Kathy,
And that's really so cool for the viewers to see that and it be like real, not just like an actor pretending to be them when they were younger.
And these actors have loved.
But the weird thing is, it wasn't like you were seeing them each year slowly grow. It had been 3 years or 3 or 4 years since we've seen them at all.
Yeah.
So when I turned episode 1 on, what I did like was they did a big recap at the beginning. Like they did a big recap, and I'm like, and just looking at it, I'm like, these are young adults now. It doesn't seem the same. I even said that to you. I think it's just going to feel, and like visually, I'm like, it doesn't feel like I'm watching the same show. It wasn't bad. I wasn't like disappointed. I'm just like, this is different. But anyway, episode 2, a little bit better. Episode 3, a little bit better. Episode 4 was gold.
It really was good.
It's almost like it took them a while to get it cranked back up again because it's been so long.
But that was probably on purpose. That was probably on purpose.
Anyway, well, I will say this. The thing about the first 4 seasons, Emily, was the music was such a big part of the show. There was songs from the 80s that became number 1 now because there was 2 or 3 songs that were like interwoven throughout the whole thing that made you felt more because of the music. There wasn't any of that. they saved the music to the end credits, and it was good music, but it wasn't playing during the show. It was in the end credits. I've got a little bit of a disappointment with that, but anyway. So episode 4 comes, and I'm like, okay. As soon as Max shows back up again, I'm like, okay, because I'm thinking she's in a coma. What are they going to do with her? When the little girl finds her, I'm like, okay, there's where Max is. Now we're on to something. And then she explains like more of Vecna's story, sort of. Oh, okay. But anyway, so then the second half of episode 4 of episode 5 is like,
Spoiler alert. Spoiler
yeah,
alert.
big spoiler. And here's where I might get emotional, because it was like
If you
it
don't
was
didn't
so
see it, spoiler alert.
it was so self-reflective for me, because Robin might have been the hero of the episode when she sees Will, like she can tell he's struggling, and the two of them have a similar struggle where they're both struggling with their sexuality. So there's that. Will's got the added thing, and Emily, Will is the character that was kidnapped in the very first episode of the very first season. He's kind of what started all this, and he has this connection to the villain called Vecna mentally. So Robin senses that he's going through some stuff, and she stops him when they're going through the tunnels. And if you remember, Cathy, it got silent. There was no background music. Nobody else was in the scene. It was just her talking to him, and she says to him, "Listen, I get it. I've been there. You're looking for the answers in everybody else. The answers are within you all along." And when she says
Part.
it's so pivotal to everything. It's like she's the
Go to
hero,
the bathroom.
because she literally says to him, "The answers are inside of you the whole time." How many times have I used The Wizard of Oz as a reference? And I talk about when the wizard says to Dorothy, "Dorothy, you've been able to go home all along." And I use that in a life sense, and like, stop looking for your answers out there.
Mm-hmm.
The answers are inside you. When she says that to him, I got goosebumps, and I sit up and I'm like really paying attention. And then she says, "Yeah, you've gone through all this stuff," and she's like, "But once stop being so damn scared of who you really are," she's like, "I'm telling you, it's freedom." And I'm like, tears are rolling down my face for real, because I'm like,
She did a
yes.
good job.
Now the circumstances are different. Like he's going through different struggles than I went through, but I'm thinking, yes, when I stopped identifying as my stuff, and when I stopped being so afraid of who I thought I was and started concentrating on who I could be, it was so liberating and so peaceful. And like, I'm like, yes, Robin, she's the hero just for that speech. Like, it's so it's iconic. So then all this stuff happens, and Vecna, they're trying to get these kids, who the bad guy, who Linda Hamilton, playing the bad guy of the military, is trying to get these kids to capture there's the bad guy Vecna, and then there's the military who's doing shady crap. So they're kind of both bad. So Vecna appears, and he's new and improved, Kathy. He's got like
Right.
new armor on. And he's like,
He got rid of the Grinch bell and he's all fit.
he's all fit. He's got all he's because they whipped his ass. They didn't kill him, obviously, but they whipped his ass in season 4, and they knocked him out the window, and he was out, but he lived. So he apparently he went to leg day and did his did some push-ups and all kind of stuff. So he's jacked now. So
Grow up.
he comes back, and here's poor Will. And Will has been the guy that they're all like, "No, Will, you stay back here." Like, they treated him like the weak link. Like, no, no, no. They were so protective. His mom, Winona Ryder, too much so. No, 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 Will, you stay back so you don't get hurt. So
Well,
Vecna
they did lose
in,
him in a whole underground,
Vecna comes in and clears out everybody. And like knocks everybody out, like pushes them all to the side and kills all these people, and then picks Will up. Will's helpless, and he basically says, "Now you're going to watch me kill all your friends," and he throws them to the ground, and all the Demogorgons start coming back, and each of them are about to attack there's like 5 or 6 of Will's friends. They're all getting ready to be attacked by another demon thing, and all of a sudden they're stuck in midair, like that something stops them. And I knew when he said, I'm seeing what they're seeing, and I'm feeling what they're feeling. And one of his friends is like, "I wonder if we could use that some way." So Robin had said the speech and told him, when you stop being so scared of who you are and embrace who you really are, all of a sudden, like Will has these power. He realizes he has these power. I got goosebumps talking about it. And basically, he wipes out all the bad guys except Vecna has left, gone through the tunnel, and gone back to the bad place. Kills all the bad guys, and I'm like, here's Will, who, Cathy, how many times have I said, your story is your superpower? Literally.
It became his superpower.
Literally, his story was literally his superpower. And I'm thinking,
Connected.
I am freaking like bouncing off the walls. I'm like, yes. Like I'm thinking, I hope people that are watching this who have gone through trauma, because somebody posted on a reaction, they said, they were talking about the Stranger Things episode. They said the thing about trauma is it builds resilience, and resilience is where you're unstoppable. And I'm like, yes, your story. I'm like, I'm thinking, man, I hope people that have gone through shit are watching this and are getting it. Number one, I'm thinking, or were they paying attention to Robin's like monologue? Because it was like, remember Cathy, she's doing the monologue and they show flashbacks of him on the swing where he meets Mike, because he's like the outcast and nobody wants to hang out with him as a little kid. And Mike says, hey, I want to be your friend. And that's like the first person who wanted to be his friend or whatever.
We're
And
gonna
he's like,
rewatch it before Christmas Eve.
I'm gonna rewatch that second half of that. I mean, man.
Well, you know what we all said were, this is a whole show of, you don't know who they're gonna kill off. It's like the Hunger Games. I haven't watched the Hunger Games, but I'm thinking it's like the Hunger Games.
Now, so far nobody's died, but I'm sure somebody will.
I'm like, but we had a list. Okay, who are we okay with if they're killed off, right? And now it's changing. It's like
I thought Hopper was going to die in this one because he was actually going to like sacrifice himself, but
they have done such a good job with these characters, even like the weak characters. Then they've made them strong, and you're like Nancy. I'm like, whatever, we can lose Nancy. Then I'm like, we can't lose Nancy. She's such a badass. Like
Nancy's getting a spinoff.
Is she for real?
Yep.
But I was like, now I'm a Nancy fan, but I wasn't necessarily a Nancy fan. And they've just done such a good job with these characters of pulling you in and out and building the story with them.
I just wish the kid that got beat up and bullied. I'm like,
Derek.
What's his name? The kid that rides the bike.
Dustin.
Yes, the bullies, the football team guys bullied him and ganged up on him, beat him up. I'm thinking, you have beat freaking Vecna. You have how are you having trouble with the bullies when you're not afraid of this freaking demon from hell, but you're afraid of the bullies?
Yeah, but you got his weakness, which was Eddie. Eddie, he was so fond of Eddie. They got him.
Maybe that'll be his journey. Like he'll just do something with the bullies at some point. But it's just
that's not over that story.
Before was like. And I told Emily, I'm like, so many life lessons. And if you like,
I think it was gonna. I mean, I was shocked by a lot of things.
You noted earlier, like, oh, I hope people were watching this and thinking about that. And I was wondering, like, I wonder if people do, because I constantly do that. When I watch stuff, read stuff, I'm constantly self-reflecting. And I wonder if, a lot of the times people aren't doing that and they're just watching the show and, oh, that's a good show, and not being like, oh, I can resonate with that. Or like,
in it, yeah.
You know what I mean?
See, apart to me, and I'm sure I'm not alone, such a big part of the charm of the first 4 seasons was these were kids and all these supernatural things were happening. And other than Will's mom and Hopper, none of the other adults believed them in the town. So here's these kids that were trying to fight this like demon villain thing that, they didn't even understand what he was, or they kind of did. They were figuring it out once 11 kind of filled him in on some of the details. And I'm like, that whole running up that hill, Kate Bush scene when, you've got Hopper fighting in Russia with the Demogorgon, but then you've got Nancy and the other ones throwing Molotov cocktails and shooting them with a shotgun. And these are kids. I'm like, and these are the ones that are kind of left to fight these things, because other than the group of military and this evil laboratory that created these things, none of the other adults believe them. They don't see any of this stuff until the earthquake happened at the end and the whole town fell apart. Then everybody knew.
But talking about this as self care, I mean, and we've talked about this a lot of times when we're talking about movies, our theater experiences, our experience things in groups. Like I like watching, like our family watching things together because we're all reacting, or we're laughing at something like dipshit
It's a way of
Derek.
connecting.
It's just it's a connection kind of thing. It's just wonderful, and I think that Stranger Things will go down as one of those pop culture things you will never recreate again, like the Harry Potter series or whatever, the Avengers or Star Wars. It will go
I'll
down.
forget everything you guys just said and I will watch it. It'll take me several years probably, but I will.
And Jay, wait for that next. I collect albums now for the second time in my life, and I've got all the Stranger Things albums that are all really good. And they said a new one's gonna come out at the end of January, so they're probably waiting for the rest of these. And I'm sure there's gonna be some. There's got to be some good songs.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that the next three come out Christmas Eve. I hope they incorporate music, even if they bring back Kate Bush again. I'd be fine with that. But there wasn't. There were some cool songs at the end credits, but there wasn't. Now they would play Kate Bush for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
Like they do a flashback and show. But I'm like, oh, give me something where I can. Look, now look, they were able to do it without any music in episode 4, and literally with
It's a strong
Robin's
episode.
monologue, it was literally stone quiet. It was only her talking. Like literally, they were like there's silence behind. There's nothing else but her voice.
But how good are these kids? They've become great actors.
Well, Robin is Uma
Yeah.
Thurman's daughter. Ethan, I'm gonna say Ethan Hawke. Is it Ethan Hawke? Yeah, because her name's
Might
Maya
be.
Hawke. Yeah, so her parents are actors, so that kind of makes some sense. And Millie Bobby Brown's been doing other things since she was like 5. Well, Max looks. They all look just like older versions, but Max looked completely different. Like she didn't even look like the same person. Yeah. Well, the girl that plays Nancy, she was actually older, playing someone younger. She was 20 when she started playing.
Really?
Yeah, she's one of those because she's such a small girl. She kind of looks younger anyway. But yeah, it's
What a cool thing. They'll have that for their whole life, that growing up experience. And even the adults, Winona Ryder, she did so good.
well, it was so. Like, well, how about the other mom when Mike's mom breaks the wine bottle and she wasn't scared at all. She breaks the wine
Karen
bottle.
Wheeler.
Yeah, she tries and look. She didn't know she had no shot, and she ended up biting it. So I guess someone did die.
I don't think she did.
No,
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 she
no,
didn't
she
die.
didn't. Because they talked to her.
Yeah. Then there's
She
we
wrote
make
down
fun
the
of the dad.
information.
Who's the dad? Ted.
Yeah, he wouldn't believe. He's like, no, this stuff. He's one of the adults who was like, no, this
Boring
stuff
Ted.
isn't happening. But then he came home and the lights were flashing in his house, and then he learned, yeah, it's been really happening all the time. I get so worked up about it, especially that 4th episode. I mean, come on. When I get goosebumps and I get teary eyed.
Imagine how many hours we were activated on high alert. It was a lot of time where we're like, oh my God, what? We were wound up for hours.
The Duffer Brothers wanted to do one episode per week.
Really?
Netflix said, nope, we're going to stick to the same formula. And we're going to put them out in chunks and have one at the end. So that it's like 2.5 hours. The one on New Year's Eve will be 2.5 hours, just one. All the rest of them are right around an hour and 15 minutes. So yeah, it's 4, 3, and then 1. So yeah, Christmas Eve will be interesting. I'm going to try to spread them out again. Yeah, I'm hoping that it's kind of these are like will continue to. If they're like episode 4, I'll watch them all right in a row. I won't be able to keep myself from watching all 3.
No self-control.
No, it's no self-control. It's good stuff.
All right. So anyway, thank you guys again for listening to Eastern Short Talk. Emily, so glad you joined us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for what you're doing with serving our parents in our community, and we will definitely have you back. And maybe you will have at least started Stranger Things, and we can talk about Stranger Things with you.
Right? We'll have a recap episode of season 1.
There you go.
And tell Matt I was asking about him. All right, guys, take care. We'll catch you next time on Eastern Short Talk. See you guys. Emily, hold tight for a few minutes.